Today we're going to talk about hashtag strategy, but first I want to go into the history of the hashtag and how it became such a prominent online feature. So originally the hashtag symbol was actually called the octothorpe, and it was used in the 1800s as a bookkeeping symbol. It was kind of interchangeably called the pound sign and the number sign. The number sign was used when the hashtag appeared before a figure, and when it appeared after a figure was when it was considered the pound sign. Now that was pretty much the standard use until we get to the 1960s, where Bell Laboratories, Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone, when Bell Laboratories introduced the octothorpe onto their keypad, the intention was so operators on the other end could interpret certain types of data that they were being sent. It was also later used as a speed dial function, so you could attribute a small set of numbers in place of a longer sequence. In the 1980s, the internet was becoming more widespread. More than just universities were using it to share information. Now individuals were using the internet to share information. We had these things called IRCs, which were internet relay chats. They all looked very old school codey. They didn't have much of a user-friendly interface, and it was just a big wall of text coming from different individuals at any given time. The term hashtag started being used in order to differentiate from when you were saying the pound sign as in the hashtag or the octothorpe, and then the pound sign as in the actual UK currency pound. IRCs are where people first started using hashtags to categorize topics and make it easy for people to find certain bits of information in this big wall of very similar looking text. If you want an idea of how an IRC works, just think of like a Discord chat room that has different channels and stuff. Now around the time social media networks started to become popular, we had Twitter, which is now X, but it was Twitter at the time this was happening, so I'm going to keep going with Twitter. Twitter is regularly credited with the creation of the hashtag, but it was actually a specific individual from Twitter who started the trend. He was called Chris Mesner, and he noticed that another platform, Flickr, was using the tag San Diego Fire in order to talk about wildfires in California. There was quite an active tweeter at the time called Nate Ritter. He suggested that Nate start using hashtags to categorize his tweets all relevant to the topic under hashtag San Diego Fire, and not long after, people began using hashtags quite commonly to segment their topics of tweets on Twitter. It was a very common complaint at the time that it seemed like a bit of a free-for-all. I often describe it as people shouting into the void. Well, a year later, trending topics became a thing where the most popular hashtags were appearing on the sidebar for people to see what was going on in the news today from the average man's perspective. Since then, other social media platforms have readily adopted the hashtag. They've all adapted them in their own different ways, and today we're going to talk about how to develop your hashtag strategy for your social media platforms. So it's very obvious that the most common use for hashtags is for people to categorize their content. That makes it easier for search engines to find it and suggest it, and it also makes it easier for people to find it. A lot of people will actively search a specific hashtag because they want more information on a topic, so it helps improve your reach and impressions on social media platforms if you use a hashtag relevant to that topic that is very popular. It can help you build a brand talking about individual services you offer or about a show that you may produce online. They help people share their thoughts around a certain event that may be happening, and it helps you promote your event if you put a certain hashtag related to it. After the event has happened, people can share the content with the relevant date of the event. They also help you find people in your niche, so if you have a hashtag that operates by location or you have one relevant to an industry you're in, then it helps people find colleagues and nearby people in the subject matter. And a bit more recently, they've been used to help social movements, so stuff like Black Lives Matter started as an initial hashtag, and the people who created it used it to build an organization of like-minded individuals. Those are the purposes of hashtags. Now, there's different types of hashtags that you can create as well. So there's brand hashtags, which people may use to mention a sponsorship that they have, build a relationship you have with another organization. There are community hashtags, which are in jokes within a niche, for example. Like, I don't know if you watch the Distractable podcast, but hashtag Ship of Theseus is quite a popular one to my understanding. There's brand community hashtags, which can be used for things like competitions that you're hosting that only people who know what's going on will be able to use. There are brand community hashtags, which could be used for people appreciating a specific product that you have and they're sharing their thoughts on what you've created. It could be having a competition that you need people to hashtag in order to enter it. They're also great for using user-generated content and letting the brand know that you've produced something relevant to them, which may in turn get you shared and more reach for your individual platform via this other brand's following. There are niche hashtags, which are pretty much anything relevant to the specific topic. That's way too broad to even describe, really. But for example, one that I could use for this video is hashtag hashtag, or hashtag digital marketer, or hashtag hashtag strategy. all that sort of stuff. There are also audience descriptive hashtags. One that I use for my martial arts Debizdo is girls who kick. That's quite a popular one in the Taekwondo world. You could also have product descriptive hashtags like theatre class, acting class, bookkeeping templates, anything like that. There are also location hashtags. Now don't be posting your address as an individual hashtag, but you want stuff like your relevant city, your country, your region in the world is getting a bit broad. I would argue that using a continent hashtag is a bit too optimistic. And then event hashtags, as well as promoting the event before and after, they're really popular for people talking about an event while they're there, coordinating a little meetup at a larger convention, for example. Now, for your actual hashtag strategy, you want to create something called a hashtag vault. This can be formatted in whichever way is most beneficial for you, but it needs to involve these factors. You need multiple lists or categories or segments in a table, but you need at least 3 tiers of them. Now, tier 1 is where you put all your hashtags that have had 1 million uses or more. Tier 2 is 100,000 to 1 million uses. And then tier 3 is less than 100,000 uses. Now, we're going to be putting hashtags in these different tiers as you research them. And I find that this is a brilliant tool for when you're creating a social media post and you don't want to spend so much time thinking of fresh hashtags every individual time. You're feeling a bit brain dead. You already created the actual content for the post yesterday, but now you have to create the post and how we're going to get it seen. Go to your hashtag vault and pick out a few that you researched earlier. Now what you want to do is come up with a bunch of different types of hashtags that we've just gone over that are relevant to what you do and put them into these tiers. You want to have at least 10 to 20 in each individual tier, but the more the better, and you have to keep them updated because, you know, social media moves at 1,000,000 miles an hour and you never know when something is going to pick up a new connotation and you've accidentally created a scandal for yourself. Obviously, it's hard to just come up with good hashtags out of nowhere, so you need places to actually research them. Now, there are specific websites like hashtags.datagemba.com. If you have a social media scheduling tool like Metrical or Later, then it's really popular that they have hashtag research tools within the software itself, and it can suggest relevant hashtags based on the content of your post and the time that you're posting. But the simplest one is just to browse social media and see what you find people in your area using. Instagram actually has a really good function where if you search by a hashtag, then it tells you how many uses that hashtag has had, and that's where I really like to base it off, because although Twitter kind of owns the notion of a hashtag, Instagram has some of the best tools for utilizing them, in my opinion, on platform. Now, what I see a lot of people doing is they'll research their hashtags, they'll say, okay, I've got them now, this is relevant to me, I'm gonna just copy and paste this for every single post I do. Don't do that. Not only does it water down the effect of the hashtags you're using if you overuse them, but it can actually flag up on social media platforms, especially for professional business profiles. If you're just repeating the same thing over and over and over, it becomes spam, because most hashtags you have to place them in the actual post itself or in the first comment of a post, and it will just see it as repetitious content. It will get your reach impacted and it will reduce the success of the post you have. That doesn't mean you can't reuse the same hashtag now and again, or you can use the same one, but make sure you shuffle the order of them. I've actually had previous jobs where after I've left it, they've just gone to an old post that I created with research hashtags, and they took that paragraph and they posted it on a completely irrelevant post. So it was one post talking about a service that we have, and then another one it was talking about an event they want people to go to irrelevant to that service. It just didn't work out. Even if you happen to actually reach people through those hashtags, they're not going to be your target audience, so it's not going to convert to something that you want them to benefit from, like you getting money, or them attending your event, or your social movement gaining popularity. If it doesn't reach the correct people, all your work is pretty much wasted. Another tool that I really like for Instagram is you can see if people who are coming to see your content are doing it through the use of hashtags. So if you're not seeing a lot of people coming through your hashtags, then you know that what you're doing is irrelevant. Many social media platforms have a similar thing for that. Now, please don't fall into the trap of using really popular hashtags that are totally irrelevant to your content. Like on TikTok, people put FYP, which is hashtag for you page, and they just assume that will get your content seen. It may get your content seen by other people trying to go viral on the For You page, but it doesn't exactly reach the people that you're trying to reach. It's such a generalist audience. How do you ever expect to benefit from it? Now, the question of how many hashtags to use, you are going to get different opinions from absolutely everybody. So I will just tell you what the platforms themselves tend to recommend. Twitter would suggest 2 per tweet, or X now, although that rule might have gone out the window since they have completely rejigged their platform so much recently. For Facebook, they suggest suggest between 3 and 5 hashtags per post. Now, a lot of people debate if hashtags even have any effect on the success of your post on Facebook, but I personally think I have great success with them. Even comparing similar posts that do have hashtags and don't have hashtags posted in a similar time frame, but a similar subject matter, I just find that the ones with hashtags get so much more reach and success and engagement, because it's finding people who care about what I'm saying. Now, for Meta-owned platforms like Facebook and Instagram, remember that your posts on Facebook can actually attribute the hashtags from the first comment to your original post. But if you're on Instagram, only hashtags in the caption of the post are considered relevant to the post that you are using the hashtags for. You can't just post a hashtag on your profile as an individual thing and expect it to make a previous post more successful. It doesn't work that way. LinkedIn also like 3 to 5 hashtags per post, and they consider the order of entry the order of priority. So don't just use your location as your first hashtag on LinkedIn. Make sure it's relevant to the niche you're discussing. And then for things like vertical videos, so shorts, reels, TikTok, there's not a lot of supporting evidence that hashtags increase your reach. For those specific things, it's more proven that they aid towards your categorization, which is what you want your profile to be categorized for, because if you have the same categories attributed to enough posts on your individual profile, then they will start showing your other posts even without the specific hashtag relevant to that niche, because your profile is proven to be relevant to that niche. We're getting very conceptual with a lot of this, so try and stay with me. Now, one rule that you need to follow is don't be generic. And when I say that, I don't mean don't copy what everyone else is doing, because to a degree, hashtags require you to be doing the same thing as other people, although don't do what everyone else is doing as your sole rule, because then you're just a copycat who's not providing original content on the internet. No one wants that. But stuff like hashtag funny, hashtag joke, hashtag smile, hashtag adventure, these are so broad and generalist that I'm sure they have hundreds of millions of uses. But then, again, how is anyone going to know who you're targeting? You could include them, don't get me wrong, you should definitely include them, because when you go into your hashtag vault, you want to pick a few from every individual tier, so you have a chance of reaching some people in a larger audience of your tier 1 hashtags, and then you want to really dominate the few people who are searching you in the tier 3 hashtags, and obviously tier 2 is somewhere in the middle, balancing the number of people using it with the number of people likely to find you. But if you use just tier 1 hashtags that are so generalized, then you have almost no chance of actually getting seen in the mess. Now, one thing you want to be careful of is content advisory hashtags. So if you use too many of these, then your profile will be considered high risk and likely to cause controversy. The algorithms on most platforms really don't like it, so you don't want to put too many hashtag weight loss if you're a health and wellness brand, because it might flag you as an anorexia post. If you're not sure if a hashtag you're going to use is at risk of being considered a content advisory tag, then make sure to check the community guidelines documentation of any platform you use. One conspiracy theory I have is platforms recommend stuff, and I don't believe that they actually want exactly what they're recommending to you, partially because these organizations have to have an actual person update these recommendations, so by the time they've changed what they're doing in the back end, how are the people on the front end using it going to know about it? It has to go through a system to actually update that documentation for public viewership. But also, I believe that these platforms that offer paid advertising, they actually want you to use less hashtags to inhibit your organic growth, so you're encouraged to spend more money on paid ads. I have no evidence for this, but this is something that has been really bugging me, and I feel like I need to share the concept with the world. Tell me in the comments if you agree, because I'm just getting a bit, the world is ending at this point. In my last video, I talked about how to optimize a blog post for SEO, and we talked a lot about the concept of keywords. Now, hashtags and keywords are not exactly interchangeable, but hashtags are very focused on social media, and keywords are very focused on organic search engines like Google, Bing, showing up in that place. Social media essentially have their own on-platform search engines, but they just operate based off of hashtags instead of off keywords. This doesn't mean that keywords are irrelevant in the content you post onto social media. It just means that if you hashtag something, you are really highlighting to the algorithm, this is what it's about. This is what I care about. So with your niche hashtags and your audience hashtags, that's stuff that's really highlighting to the algorithm what you want to do. And then with your community hashtags and your brand hashtags, that's something that you really want to speak to a person with. The concept of keywords still apply to some social media content. I believe LinkedIn heavily lean towards the use of keywords, and also Facebook would lean towards that because they're quite text-heavy platforms. But a hashtag does not negate the use of a keyword, or a keyword does not mean that a hashtag will no longer work. They work in tandem on social media. So hopefully you will feel like you've learned something. Let me know in the comments if you think you did, and then if you want to support me in any way so I can keep making these videos to offer you digital marketing advice, go to my website dibdabdigital.com and check out the shop page, see if there's anything there that you like the look of, and thank you for watching.